A crack in the lens of reality. Why Western thought is stuck, and where we might look for an answer. Have you ever had the feeling that the world is a little out of focus? That for all our incredible progress, our ability to map the genome and gaze at galaxies billions of light years away, we're still missing something fundamental about our own existence. It's a quiet hum of dissatisfaction, a sense that the stories we tell ourselves about who we are and what this is all about don't quite add up. For centuries, the West has leaned on two great pillars to hold up its worldview: religion and science. First, there was God, the ultimate architect, who laid out a world of moral certainty and divine purpose. But then came the tremors. Geologists dug into the earth and found a story of time that stretched back millions of years, a story that didn't match the one in Genesis. Astronomers looked to the heavens and saw not a stage for humanity, but a vast, cold, indifferent expanse. The pillar of religion, for many, began to crack. Its authority, once absolute, crumbled into a matter of private faith, unable to bear the weight of public truth. Into this void stepped science, the new titan. It promised a world built not on faith, but on hard, verifiable facts. It offered a new kind of salvation, through reason, observation, and the unwavering laws of cause and effect. And its power is undeniable. It gave us medicine, electricity, and the silicon chips that power our modern age. Yet this new pillar, for all its strength, has cast a long and chilling shadow. In its quest to explain everything, science may have explained us away. This is the hidden crisis of our time. We stand between the ghost of a dead god and the reflection of a soulless machine, and neither feels like home. But what if the problem isn't with religion or science themselves, but with a fundamental, unexamined flaw in the very way we in the West have tried to understand reality? What if the lens we're looking through is cracked? The uncalibrated instrument. The bedrock of science is empiricism, knowledge gained through experience and inference. A scientist wouldn't dream of using an uncalibrated instrument. We meticulously fine-tune the James Webb Space Telescope to correct for the slightest distortion. We account for every variable in a particle accelerator. We check every tool, except for one: the mind itself. Natural science makes a colossal assumption right out of the gate, that there is an objective, external world out there, and our minds are more or less reliable windows onto it. But it never rigorously investigates the nature of that window. It's like a photographer obsessing over the landscape, but never bothering to check if their camera lens is smudged, warped, or cracked. In the entire scientific enterprise, there's only one field that even tries to study the mind: psychology. Yet, modern psychology often makes the problem worse. Behaviorism, for example, attempts to study consciousness by observing external behaviors, essentially using the physical world to measure the mind. This is like trying to calibrate a high-precision microscope by comparing it to a crudely drawn sketch. It's a circular and deeply flawed process. This isn't a new problem. Western philosophy has been wrestling with it for centuries, leading us down three famous roads, each of which, I'd argue, is a dead end. The three dead ends of Western philosophy. Imagine you're standing before the Grand Canyon. The light, the color, the sheer scale of it fills your consciousness. What is the relationship between the raw, physical rock out there and the feeling of awe inside you? The ghost in the machine, dualism. The first road says the mind, the ghost, and the world, the machine, are two completely different things. Matter is physical, extended in space. Mind is non-physical, without dimension. But if they are fundamentally separate, how do they interact? We can trace the photons of light bouncing off the canyon walls, entering your eye, hitting your retina, and sending electrochemical signals down your optic nerve to your brain. This is all a physical process. But then, a miracle happens. That physical jolt in your brain tissue becomes the subjective, private, ineffable experience of seeing red rock and feeling awe. How? No one can explain it. The ghost and the machine remain strangers, and this road goes nowhere. The world as a dream, idealism. Frustrated by this gap, the second road proposes a radical solution: There is no machine, only the ghost. The world is your consciousness. The Grand Canyon isn't out there. It exists only as an idea in your mind. This neatly solves the interaction problem, but it creates a bigger one. If the canyon is just my private dream, why do you see it too? How can we agree on its features, its location, its very existence? If reality is a solo performance, why does it feel like we're all in the same theater, watching the same play? This road dissolves into a solipsistic fog. The ultimate machine, materialism, the third road, is the one most common today. It's the philosophy that science implicitly champions. It claims there is no ghost, only the machine. The mind is not a separate entity. It is simply what the brain does. Your thoughts, your love, your sense of self, it's all just the intricate firing of neurons, a biological computation. We are, in essence, incredibly complex meat robots. To a materialist, free will is an illusion. You think you freely chose to drink water because you were thirsty. That's no different from a thermostat choosing to turn on the heat when the temperature drops. Your feeling of thirst was just a biological program running in response to low hydration levels in your blood. This view is sleek, efficient, and deeply unsettling, and it suffers from two fatal flaws. First, the moral flaw. If we are just deterministic machines and there is no afterlife, no cosmic justice, no karma, then why be good? If you can get away with it, why not lie, cheat, and steal your way to the top? Materialism provides the perfect intellectual alibi for the sociopath. It guts morality of any real foundation, leaving only social convention or the fear of getting caught. Second, the logical flaw. Materialism fails to solve the very problem it set out to fix. It laughs at the dualist for being unable to explain how non-physical mind can see physical matter. But materialism can't explain how the physical matter of your brain can experience the physical matter of the canyon. They are still two separate things. As the original author so brilliantly put it, the retina is just being hit by bullets of light, photons, or pushed by waves. How does the brain tissue, sitting in the dark of your skull, reconstruct a vivid, three-dimensional, technicolor world from those raw, blind impacts? The gap remains. The materialist simply moved the mystery from a mind-matter gap to a matter-matter gap and declared the problem solved. A determinist once offered a clever analogy. If a falling stone could think, it would believe it was falling of its own free will. This is meant to show our sense of freedom is an illusion, but we can turn this right back on them. A person who trips and falls from a balcony can think, and they would tell you with absolute certainty that they are not falling of their own free will. The analogy, like the philosophy, falls apart under scrutiny. The quicksand of relativism. When these foundations proved shaky, a new, more sophisticated idea emerged from thinkers like Hegel and Marx, the historical or dialectical view. It argued that there is no fixed, absolute truth. Truth, knowledge, and morality are all products of their time, constantly evolving. A thesis gives rise to an antithesis, and their conflict resolves into a new synthesis. It sounds brilliant, but it's built on intellectual quicksand. The theory contains a poison pill of self-contradiction. If the statement, all truth is relative and changes with the times, is true, then what about the statement itself? Is it also relative and bound to change? If they say yes, then their theory self-destructs. If they say no, this theory is an absolute, eternal truth, then they have provided a perfect counterexample to their own rule. It's a paradox from which there is no escape. Marx himself fell into this trap. He built his philosophy on the idea that truth is concrete, not abstract. He used a great example. You can't say rain is good as an abstract truth. Rain after planting is good. Rain during harvest is disastrous. Context is everything. Yet in the same breath, Marx made one of the most famous abstract pronouncements in history. Religion is the opium of the people. He had only ever studied Christianity in 19th century Europe, yet he made a sweeping, universal judgment on all religion for all time. He broke his own rule, revealing the fatal instability at the heart of his own dialectic. Polishing the lens. So here we are. The old religious certainties are gone. The philosophical roads of dualism, idealism, and materialism are dead ends. Science is a powerful tool for manipulating the world, but a poor one for understanding ourselves. And relativism dissolves into self-contradiction. It is into this intellectual vacuum that the philosophy of the Buddha enters, not as a religion in the Western sense, but as a different kind of science, a science of the mind. It starts by taking nothing for granted. It does not assume an objective world out there. It does not assume a self in here. It begins with the only thing we can be certain of, experience itself. The Buddhist method is to turn the lens of inquiry around and examine the nature of perception, consciousness, and reality from the inside out. It is a 2,500-year-old project dedicated to rigorously calibrating the one instrument we all possess. Its core principles are built on what it calls direct perception, the raw, unfiltered data of the senses, and rigorous inference, logical deduction based on that data. Unlike Western science, it doesn't stop at the retina or the eardrum. It follows the chain of causation all the way into the depths of consciousness, seeking to understand not just that we see, but how seeing happens and who or what is doing the seeing. This path doesn't offer easy answers or comforting dogmas. It doesn't ask for belief in a creator God or a grand historical destiny. It simply proposes that the crack in our lens of reality can be mended. It suggests that through disciplined training of the mind, through meditation and inquiry, we can clear away the distortions, assumptions, and illusions that keep us trapped. We can learn to see things, including ourselves, not as we wish them to be or as we assume them to be, but as they truly are. And in that clarity, it promises, lies a truth more profound and a freedom more real than any offered by the grand, but ultimately flawed, systems of the West. It is not a new faith to adopt, but a path to be walked, an experiment to be conducted by the only person who can, you. Polishing the lens, the truth you can't say. After our tour through the graveyard of Western philosophies, it's clear we haven't found a truth that holds. So, what does a real truth even look like? Let's make a distinction. There are practical, everyday truths, the rules to win a game of chess, the formula for a chemical reaction. These are useful, but they are branches on the tree of knowledge, not the root. Then there are broader scientific laws like the conservation of energy, which seem to describe the trunk of the tree, the very fabric of the physical world. But even these are just descriptions of the what, not the why or the how. The closest the West came to a fundamental truth was Hegel's dialectic, that engine of thesis, antithesis, and synthesis. If not for its fatal self-contradiction, it might have been the key. The Buddhist path offers something strikingly similar, but without the logical flaw. It's called Dharma nature beyond words. Think back to Marx's claim, truth is concrete. It's a powerful statement, but look closer. The words truth is concrete are themselves an abstract idea. Every word we speak, every concept we form in our minds is an abstraction, a simplified label for a messy, complex reality. So when Hegel or Marx says truth is concrete, what they are unwittingly saying is that true reality, the thing itself, cannot be captured by words or thoughts. It is, by its very nature, beyond words and concepts. This is the core insight they touched but couldn't grasp, and it's the reason their systems collapsed into paradox. This immediately raises a question. If the ultimate truth is beyond words, why am I using words to write about it? And why did the Buddha spend a lifetime teaching? The answer is a beautiful paradox. The Buddhist teachings are not the truth itself, but a finger pointing to the truth. The word fire will not burn you, but it's essential for telling you where to find warmth. The words are a map, not the territory. The goal is not to memorize the map, but to use it to arrive at the destination and experience it for yourself. This direct, first-hand knowing is called realization or verification. It's like seeing fire with your own eyes. You might struggle to describe the exact flicker of the flames or the precise quality of its heat to someone else, but your own knowledge of it is undeniable, clear, and absolute. To help us get there, Buddhist philosophy uses various maps to sketch the landscape of reality. One of the most famous is a 4-line verse from the philosopher Nagarjuna. Things born of causes and conditions, I say, are empty. They are also provisional names. And this is the meaning of the middle way. Let's break that down. Things born of causes and conditions is just a beautiful way of saying everything. Everything we experience, from a star to a thought, arises from a web of interconnected causes. Nothing exists in isolation. The second line, I say, are empty, is the Buddhist thesis. Emptiness doesn't mean nothingness. It means things are empty of independent, permanent existence. They are like waves on an ocean reel, but without a separate identity from the water. The third line, they are also provisional names, is the antithesis. While things are fundamentally empty, we still live in a world of practical reality where we call a wave and a mountain. This is the world of conventional truth, where things appear solid and distinct. The final line, and this is the meaning of the middle way, is the synthesis. It's the realization that both perspectives are true simultaneously. Reality is both empty and form, wave and water. To see this is to walk the middle way, resolving the apparent contradiction. It is Hegel's dialectic, but healed of its paradox. This is the non-dual gate, the unifying principle that Hegel called the unity of opposites. You might think this sounds abstract and mystical, but our own modern science is a testament to this very principle. Think about it. Time, we speak of past and future as opposites, but your yesterday was once your tomorrow, and your tomorrow will soon be your yesterday. They are two sides of the same coin of now. Space, we define ourselves by up, down, left, right, but on a spherical planet, your up is someone else's down. They are relative, not absolute. Freedom and determinism. Marx himself wrestled with this. From one perspective, our actions are determined by our biology and environment. From another, we experience choice. The non-dual view holds that we are both determined and free, two inseparable aspects of a single reality. Electricity and magnetism. You can't have a positive charge without a corresponding negative charge somewhere. You can't have a magnet's north pole without its south. Cut a magnet in half, and each piece will instantly have its own north and south. They are an inseparable pair. Matter and energy. Einstein's famous E equals mc2 is the ultimate non-dual statement in physics. It tells us that matter and energy are not two different things, but are fundamentally interchangeable forms of the same underlying reality. Even the great Western divide between mind and matter is a false dichotomy. We've established that you can't find a trace of the objective world without consciousness. But equally, what is consciousness conscious of? Its objects are the forms of the world. Mind and matter are as inseparable as the north and south poles of a magnet. They co-arise. The geologist who says, "The Earth existed for billions of years before life," is forgetting that geology is a form of human knowledge. The ancient Earth's existence is proven now through a conscious mind. Its past existence is not independent of its present verification. This is the profound insight offered by the non-dual view. It collapses the warring opposites of Western thought into a unified whole. This was expressed most elegantly in a famous Buddhist text, the Vimalakirti Sutra. A group of advanced practitioners are asked to describe the gate of non-duality. One by one, they offer profound philosophical statements. Birth and death are a duality, but the true nature of things is neither born nor dies. Self and non-self are a duality, but without a fixed self, there is nothing to possess. And so on, each collapsing a pair of opposites. Finally, they turn to the wisest of the group, a layman named Vimalakirti, and ask for his explanation. He responds with a thundering silence. In that moment of pure, wordless presence, he didn't just describe the truth beyond words, he embodied it. This is the final step, to move from the map, words and concepts, to the territory, direct, silent realization. More than a philosophy, a path to freedom. Now you might be thinking, this is fascinating philosophy, but what does it have to do with religion? In the West, we've built a firewall between truth, the domain of science and philosophy, and religion, the domain of faith and morality. The rise of materialism made this split inevitable. But if we dismantle materialism by showing that mind and matter are not separate, the wall comes down. The Buddhist path is therefore both a rigorous philosophy of truth and a practical, transformative religion or spiritual path. But it differs from Western religions in crucial ways. Rebirth, not just an afterlife. It speaks not just of a future life, but of a past one stretching back without a beginning. We are all on an endless wheel of rebirth, cycling through different realms of existence, from heavenly states to hellish ones, from human to animal. Liberation, not salvation. Because the cycle is endless, even being reborn in a heavenly realm is temporary. It's a pleasant holiday, not a final destination. The ultimate goal is not to get a better room in the prison, but to break out of the prison of cyclical existence altogether. This is called nirvana, or liberation. Action without ego. The path to liberation still involves ethical action, benefiting others and avoiding harm. But it's done with a crucial twist. One acts with compassion not to earn a reward or save one's soul, but from a place of understanding that the separation between me and you is an illusion. The goal is to act without the thought, I am doing a good deed, therefore I will be rewarded. Radical equality. The Christian God may love all humanity, and a socialist may fight for the rights of the working class. But the Buddhist view goes further. It posits that every single sentient being, from a human to an insect, possesses Buddha nature, the innate potential for complete awakening. In this view, there is no ultimate hierarchy. The potential for enlightenment is the universal birthright of all consciousness. This path, therefore, is not about believing in something. It is about waking up to what is already true. It offers an answer to our modern crisis, not by giving us a new dogma to cling to, but by handing us the tools to polish the lens of our own minds, so we can finally see reality and ourselves with liberating clarity. The architecture of reality. A Buddhist map of the cosmos and the mind. Having established that true reality is beyond words, we can now use words, our map, to explore the territory it points to. This exploration of the detailed features of reality is the next layer of the Buddhist path. After gaining a glimpse of the fundamental nature of things, Dharma nature, a clear mind can then perceive the intricate workings of the cosmos with stunning precision. We'll focus on two revolutionary ideas: the relationship between mind and matter, and the structure of the universe. The most sophisticated model for this comes from the Yogacara, or mind-only, school of Mahayana Buddhism. It proposes a model of consciousness far more complex than the simple, I think, therefore I am of the West. It outlines 8 layers of consciousness. The first 6 are familiar. The 5 senses, sight, hearing, smell, taste, touch, and the 6th are everyday thinking mind, manavijnana, which processes the data from the senses. But beneath this surface-level activity lie 2 deeper layers that are the engine of our reality. The 7th consciousness, manas, is the persistent, egocentric filter. It's the relentless process that takes the flow of experience and stamps it with me, my, and mine. It's the source of our illusion of a separate, solid self, the ghost in the machine that Western philosophy could never locate. Beneath that is the 8th and deepest layer, the alaya vijnana, or the storehouse consciousness. This is the truly radical and game-changing concept. Think of it as the ultimate hard drive of the universe, a vast, subconscious field that contains the seeds, bija, of all past experiences, not just for you, but for all beings. Everything that has ever happened leaves an imprint, a karmic trace in this field. This is where the mind-only school elegantly solves the mind-matter problem. It posits that what we call the external physical world is actually the collective projection of this storehouse consciousness. The world isn't out there, separate from us. It's a shared dream, a co-created reality woven from the karmic seeds of all beings. Your individual body, too, is a manifestation from this storehouse. This sounds esoteric, but let's look at how eerily it predicts modern science. The Yogacara texts describe how our sense organs function. They speak of the physical organ, like the eyeball, and a clear matter within it that actually does the perceiving. This clear matter is described as a subtle substance, invisible to the naked eye. That is the true instrument of sense. What could this be but a perfect, pre-scientific description of our sensory nerves? The optic nerve, the auditory nerve. These are the clear matter that translate external stimuli into experience. The theory gets even more specific. It explains that our minds never directly touch the external world. Instead, the world acts as a remote cause. Our sense consciousness then creates an internal image, or representation, nimitta, and it is this internal image that we actually perceive. Think about what happens when you see a tree. According to modern neuroscience, photons bounce off the tree, enter your eye, and form an inverted image on your retina. Your optic nerve then transmits this data to the brain, which constructs a three-dimensional, colored experience of tree. You never experience the tree itself. You only ever experience your brain's simulation of the tree. This is exactly what Yogacara philosophy described 1,500 years ago. It's a theory of virtual reality, but one that applies to our everyday existence. This model of a reality composed of flickering moments of consciousness, seeds ripening into experience, which in turn plant new seeds, is also a perfect parallel to modern physics. The Buddhist view is that all phenomena, both mental and physical, are not solid things, but are composed of infinitesimally short moments. K letter 1E63, a letter 1E47 of arising and ceasing. A seemingly stable object is like a movie film, a rapid succession of still frames, creating the illusion of continuous motion. Compare this to a wave in physics. A wave is a constant exchange between kinetic energy, the manifest moment, like a film frame, and potential energy, the latent moment, the seed for the next frame. Kinetic energy arises, then transforms into potential energy, which in turn gives rise to the next moment of kinetic energy. This constant, flashing interplay of potential and manifest energy is the fundamental nature of light, sound, and all forms of radiation. It is the Buddhist concept of seeds and manifestations, described in the language of physics. Even the atom, once considered the indivisible, permanent building block of reality, has dissolved into this dance. An atom is not a tiny solid ball. It is a cloud of probability, a system of electrons vibrating in quantum energy states around a nucleus, a system best described by wave mechanics. The very identity of an element is determined by this pattern of energetic vibration, a perfect echo of the Buddhist vision of reality as a shimmering, impermanent flow. The correlations don't stop there. The ancient Buddhist texts describe a cosmology that, when interpreted from a modern perspective, is breathtakingly accurate. They speak of a central mountain, Mount Meru, which can be seen as the Earth itself, with its axis pointing to the North Star, surrounded by 4 continents. They describe a day on one continent corresponding to night on the opposite one. They map a world where one person's west is another's east, perfectly describing a spherical planet. They speak of realms of intense heat deep within the Earth, the molten core, and realms of extreme cold at the world's periphery, the polar ice caps. They describe the Earth, land wheel, as resting on a water wheel, which rests on a wind wheel, which rests in space. A clear analogy for the solid lithosphere, the liquid hydrosphere, and the gaseous atmosphere existing in the vacuum of space. But then they zoom out. Our world system, they said, is just one of 1,000. 1,000 of these small thousand worlds make up a medium thousand world. And 1,000 of those make a great thousand world system, our cosmic neighborhood, which they named the Saha world. Let's do the math. A small thousand world. Our solar system, with its handful of major planets and hundreds of minor ones, fits this description of a world system with roughly 1,000 celestial bodies. A medium thousand world, 1,000 solar systems. A great thousand world, 1,000 x 1,000 equals 1,000,000 solar systems. What is a cluster of 1,000,000 or more solar systems? It's a galaxy. The ancient texts seem to be describing our Milky Way, and then they say that in all directions there are countless other such great thousand worlds. This is precisely the universe of countless galaxies that modern astronomy has revealed to us. They even describe the birth of a cosmos, a process that mirrors the modern nebular hypothesis. It begins with a great wind, a vast cloud of hot gas, a nebula. This cools, and a cloud of golden treasure appears, the condensation of heavy metals with the highest dew points. Rain falls from this cloud, which is churned by the wind until it solidifies into a golden land wheel, the formation of a molten metallic core. Then other elements condense, fall upon the core, and cool to form the crust of planets. It's a step-by-step description of planetary formation, written millennia before the invention of the telescope. The texts even describe the end of the world in 3 great calamities: fire, water, and wind, which could destroy the cosmos. This sounds like myth, but it maps onto plausible astrophysical events. A star-going nova or a planetary collision, fire, an encounter with a rogue ice giant planet, water, or being consumed by a gas giant or nebula, wind. Of course, not every detail in these ancient texts aligns perfectly with modern science. They were not written as scientific textbooks. They are maps of consciousness, using the language and metaphors of their time. But the degree of congruence is staggering. It points to a profound and undeniable truth, that through deep, introspective inquiry, the Buddhist masters perceived the fundamental nature of reality, from the quantum dance of energy to the grand architecture of the cosmos, with a clarity that our external, objective science is only now beginning to confirm. The evidence is not a matter of faith, it's a matter of comparison. The Buddha did not ask for blind belief. He invited us to investigate, to question, and to see for ourselves. And when we place this ancient wisdom alongside our most advanced knowledge, we find not a contradiction, but a deep and resonant harmony. We find a truth that has been waiting patiently for us to catch up. The practice, forging the instrument. We've journeyed through the philosophical landscape and glimpsed the cosmic map. But Buddhism is not just a set of ideas to be believed. It is a path to be walked. Its aim is to directly experience the truth beyond words. And the methods for doing this are as varied as the people who walk the path. At their core, however, all practices boil down to the cultivation of 2 fundamental qualities of mind that every one of us already possesses: concentration, samadhi, and insight, prajna. These aren't mystical powers. You've experienced them yourself. Think of Sir Isaac Newton, so lost in a problem that he famously put his pocket watch into a pot of boiling water instead of the egg he meant to cook for breakfast. That state of single-pointed focus, that's concentration. Later, sitting under a tree, an apple falls. In a flash of intuition, he asks not that it fell, but why it fell down and not sideways or up. This question, this penetrating inquiry that led to the law of universal gravitation, that's insight. Every great scientific discovery, every artistic masterpiece, is born from this marriage of deep focus and penetrating questioning. The Buddhist path has simply refined this natural human capacity into a systematic training. Of all the methods, the most direct, and perhaps the most challenging, is the Zen or Chan practice of investigating a keyword, Huatu. It is tailor-made for the modern scientific mind, but it demands everything you have. This is not a casual hobby. It requires a profound commitment, a willingness to set aside all preconceived notions and dedicate yourself to the inquiry with the same relentless spirit as a scientist on the verge of a breakthrough. The method is identical to Newton's. You take a question, the huitu, and you turn it inward. But there's a crucial difference. Newton's question, "Why does the apple fall down?" was aimed at finding a conceptual answer, a formula. The Zen huitu is designed to be unanswerable by the logical mind. It's a great doubt, a question like a red-hot iron ball stuck in your throat, as the old master said. You can't swallow it and you can't spit it out. Classic huatus include questions like, who is it that is hearing this sound? Or more simply, just who? You can ask it about any action. Who is walking? Who is seeing? The who feels so close, so intimately you, yet when you try to pin it down, it vanishes. Is it the brain? Is it the soul? Is it the storehouse consciousness? These are just concepts. The practice is not to find a verbal answer, but to live inside the question itself. Another beautiful huitu can arise from the natural wonder of a child. I remember as a boy, long before any formal education, I would look at the sky and wonder, what is it? If it's made of wood, how thick is the wood? And what's above the wood? And if that's stone, how thick is the stone? And what's above the stone? That raw, relentless, preconceptual inquiry, what is this, is a perfect huitu. The work is to stay with the question. The mind will resist. It will get bored, like a horse chewing on a tasteless iron bit. This is when the real work begins. The mind will drift into dullness, hunchiness, or scatter into distraction, agitation. These are the two great obstacles. Dullness isn't just falling asleep. It's any moment you let the question slide by without real energy. Agitation isn't just a storm of thoughts. It's the subtlest ripple on the surface of the mind, any flicker of attention away from the inquiry. The practice is like peeling an onion. You don't fight the thoughts. You simply return again and again with fierce and gentle determination to the question. You peel away layers of dullness and distraction. You live and breathe the question until you become the question. The masters say you must pursue it like a mother hen sitting on her eggs, or a cat waiting motionlessly at a mouse hole. When you are so absorbed that you forget whether you are walking or sitting, when you are in that same state as Newton boiling his watch, then you are close. There is no external manual for this. It is a journey like Columbus sailing into the unknown. What others have found is their story, not yours. The only secret is this: stay with the work. The point of it all. You may have read this far and feel a sense of frustration. I wanted to know what Buddhism is, and I still don't have a clear answer. That frustration is the point. The fundamental truth, Dharma nature, is, by its very definition, beyond words. If I could hand it to you in a neat formula, it wouldn't be the real thing. It would just be another concept. The most I can do is point to praise the moon by describing the clouds around it. But this ineffable truth can be realized. And that realization, that awakening, has profound implications. Why does any of this matter for world peace? Because conflict arises from a fundamental misunderstanding. We act selfishly, we harm others, because we operate under the delusion of a separate self, ignorant of the interconnected web of karma and rebirth. A person who has awakened to the truth of non-duality sees this illusion for what it is. They understand reality with a clarity that allows them to guide others. Even my own limited understanding has allowed me to write this essay, to connect dots that are invisible to many. Imagine the impact of a world with more people who see clearly. I know the scientifically minded reader might still be skeptical. This is all very poetic, but where are the numbers? Where is the hard data for reincarnation or the mana's consciousness? These aspects of reality lie outside the current domain of our physical instruments. But to dismiss them for that reason is a failure of logic. Can you prove to someone who has never studied advanced mathematics the truth of string theory? Number does that make string theory false? The credibility of Buddhist philosophy can be inferred from its astonishing predictive power in the realms science can measure, in its descriptions of psychology, physics, and cosmology, which were thousands of years ahead of their time. I began this journey late in life, well past 60, with no famous teacher to guide me. I was like a blind man fumbling for the window latch in a dark room. My progress has been slow, but because of this fumbling, I learned something essential. The truth is the dark room. It is the fumbling. The moment you think you've found the latch, that you get it, you've fallen into distraction. The moment you give up in frustration, you've fallen into dullness. The path is to simply keep fumbling with sincerity, to stay with the question, who, what, why, without demanding an immediate answer. Do this, and one day, the great questions that puzzle philosophers and scientists will become luminously clear to you. You won't need to ask anyone. If you have no desire to undertake this practice, I hope this explanation has at least cleared away some of the mystery. But if you don't wish to practice, yet still remain frustrated that you cannot grasp what Buddhism is, then there is truly nothing more I can say. Perhaps one final doubt remains. There are hundreds of millions of Buddhists in the world. Surely they haven't all undertaken this intensive practice. Of course not. Most live with a simple and powerful faith. They trust in the reality of karma, in the wisdom of the enlightened ones, in the community that preserves the teachings. This faith itself is a powerful seed planted in the storehouse of their consciousness. In time, under the right conditions, that seed will sprout, and they too will begin the journey of awakening. They are all, in their own way, disciples of the path. The door is open. The map is in your hands. The rest is up to you.